welcome everybody. So good to see you all here tonight. And I think I'm very passionate about this topic. And we're going to talk about the pillars of really what we teach and how we teach the whole concept of wellness. But I really think that the thinking right aspect of wellness is probably the most overlooked. And as you guys, many of you know, we do 8 weeks to wellness in our office. So we work with a lot of patients on changing their lifestyle and implementing different lifestyle strategies. And I have to say that the meditation or the thinking right component of that process is probably the one that people struggle with the most. It is one that takes the most practice, but it will have the most, I think, not only looking at the research, but just looking at people's experiences and how and what it takes to change your life. It's probably the one that has the biggest impact over time. So it's one that I'm so glad that you're all here to learn about. We're going to talk about different strategies that you can use to change your state, to change what you're thinking about, how you're thinking. And we're actually going to practice meditation for about an 8-minute time period tonight. But we're going to do a guided meditation, and we'll talk about different forms of meditation. But I think it's one of the easiest ways to start to implement meditation and, again, start to change your internal state. So when you look at this first slide, I just want you to think about the whole concept. Most of us are aiming in some way to be happy. This is really, I think, what many people are looking for in their life. They want to be happy. And so this is the happiness formula. And so our H that you're looking at, what we're trying to achieve is not just fleeting happiness, but more of an enduring level of happiness. And so the different factors here, when you look at it, sadly enough, we kind of have a happiness thermostat. Some people are naturally more happy than others, and there's some genetic component with that. But what I will tell you about the whole field of genetics is that it's changing tremendously. What we used to think was that if it was in our genes, that was what would happen to us. If our parents had cancer, we would most likely get cancer. If our parents had heart disease, we would probably die of a heart attack. That is so not true. What they're looking at now is the whole field of epigenetics, meaning about 10% of our destiny is determined by our genetics, and the remaining 90%, which is our lifestyle, is what really controls what our genes express. So your ability to be happy or joyful or just really, even if you're trying to achieve different health characteristics, so much of that has to do with lifestyle. Very little of it has to actually do with our DNA. Then there's the circumstances of your life, which are all kinds of things, an accumulation of different things that have happened to you throughout your life. And then there's the factors that we can control. And that's what we're really going to focus on tonight, because we want to have good strategies that you can control within your life. So we're focusing on the B. The first thing that I will talk about is attitude, and the reason I wanted to bring up these stats is because I want you to see what a big deal our attitude is. I want to put it in perspective. The reason we're talking about this is just some things to just flash through your head when you think about how important it is and how you perceive the world, how you perceive your day. Is that, here's just one, being angry actually increases your chances of having a heart attack more than being overweight would. So there's one, just being angry, being an angry person. We all know angry people that we have had to deal with. They make a big impact, and just the energy of a room, that just being in their presence can make a huge impact on us. Whereas optimism adds 7 years to your life. So optimism is a good thing. So how do we change that? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So if you feel like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, it was a really bad day to begin with, how do you change that state throughout the day? We'll talk about those strategies. But my point is that there's truly a physiological impact. It's just like, 20 years ago they used to say that stress really didn't impact you. It was just stress. It wasn't a big deal. What do we know about that now? That was a load of crap. That stress does have a true physiological impact on how you, not only how you perceive the world, how you perceive relationships. It has a huge impact on your physical state, your blood pressure, your heart rate, if you're gaining weight, if you're not gaining weight, what's happening with your blood sugar. It has a huge emotional connection into, again, just that emotional state piece of it, but then also into how your brain functions. So we need to look at all of those factors. We won't get too much into that side of it. Really, my whole goal tonight is that we're just changing. We want you to have strategies of how to change your state. You guys getting cold? It's gonna get. Tiffany, can you maybe make it at like maybe 1 degree warmer? It'll eventually get maybe very warm in here, so we just want to watch that tonight. And so you just let me know if you're too warm, too cold, whatever. So what influences your attitude? How do you change your state? So as you guys, most of you know, how we teach and how we live, how we teach, and how we've always taught at Body Imbalance is that there's really 3 pillars to being well. You have to eat right, you need to move right, and you have to think right. Those are the 3 really important components. We're going to talk a little bit about each of those because they all work together. So if one of those isn't happening appropriately, it's going to affect the other 2. So we'll talk about those components. I'm going to break them down, and then we're really going to focus on the think right portion of it. So how do you change your state again? One of the things I want you guys to think about is that Americans, and they've actually written articles and looked at this, is that Americans spend more time planning a vacation than they do actually thinking about what they want their life to be like. You just think, I mean, so say you have something, you're going to go to Mexico, you're going to go to Europe, whatever it may be. That takes a lot of planning to get all of those pieces in place for that trip to happen successfully and for it to be a good experience. But how many people do you know that, and maybe you're thinking about yourself as well, life just happens to you and it continues to happen to you. And when it just continues to happen to you like that, do you have a lot of control over your experiences or trying to create what you actually want your life to be like? It would be very difficult. So one of my whole purposes tonight is to encourage you to block out a chunk of time, whether it be on a weekend, whether it be you spend maybe 15 minutes each evening, whatever it is, to either do journaling or a vision board or something where you have dedicated time to think about the components of your life that maybe are missing that you really want to have happen. Or is it just thinking about, gosh, like just life kind of happened to me, one thing happened after another and I didn't make thoughtful choices, it just was what was. So I want you to spend time thinking about, maybe how do you want your career to look? What is that portion of your life? What should that look like for you? What do you want it to look like for you? What do you want your personal life? What do you want relationships to look like? Are there components of that need to shift or change for you? When you look at other pieces, like what do you want to take vacations? Maybe you're not taking vacations and you want to take vacations. Do you want to implement meditation? Maybe that's not happening for you. Do you want to drink more water or eat better and that's not happening in the way your life is currently? But you need to have some sort of point to evaluate. You need to take a look at what is, and you need to start thinking about what you actually want to create. So this is something in the whole world of chiropractic that we talk a lot about, and one of the reasons that I decided to go into NSA, or network spinal analysis, the type of chiropractic that we do, because there were many, if you come to the network classes, there's many emotional components to network, to really clearing out patterns that are affecting your nervous system so that you can fully express life the way you want it to be. But often we have so much stress, or we're under so much physiological stress, that it's hard for us to even to think about those things. So that's partly why I do what I do, is because of that emotional and thought connection with the adjustments and how we do that type of work in our office. But I want you to really, this is going to be a big deal. So for me, usually by the end of the year, at the beginning of the new year, I buy a journal, and it can look pretty. It can be just a basic notebook, whatever. This year I found one that says like reach for the stars on the front of it. But it's something that's my thought journal. So each morning I actually spend time writing my goals down in that journal. And we're going to talk about this later, but I don't want your goals to be something that you create as New Year's resolutions and then you never look at that again for the rest of the year. I need it to be something where it's very present in your life. So for me, it's in the first page of this journal, and I can look at that every day, but then I actually ingrain them further into my brain by writing them down every single morning. So there's got to be something, though, that's kind of your dedicated either space or time, or sometime during the week or the weekend, whatever it may be, that is your time to actually think about this. And actually evaluate, again, what's working for you, what's not working for you, and what do you actually want to see change. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So there's many different ways to do this. So I've given you one way that works for me of having a journal. But usually my alarm goes off about 4:55 a.m. And when that goes off, one of the things that will happen is this app, Keep, will actually text me my goals every single morning. So when I see that list of goals on my phone, I can think about, well, I'd really like to sleep and hit the snooze button 3 or 4 more times, but because I'm seeing my goals, it's extra motivation to get up. Okay, I need to spend, that is my time between about 5 to 5:45 is my time that the house is usually quiet, because after that, it's probably not going to be quiet, as you saw what just happened out there. It's not going to be quiet after that time period. So that's my time to meditate, to journal, to have time to set up the rest of my day. Chiropractors will call it the hour of power. So I don't always have an hour, but I can surely make a half an hour at least in my day to make those types of things happen. So that's one way. You can use a Gmail calendar to do the same thing for you. But I want your goals to be crystal clear. And one of the things that I mean by that is that you not only need to know what your goals look like and what they are, you need to be able to feel what it will feel like when you get to that state. Does that make sense? So you need to put yourself, when you meditate, and when you think about those goals, I usually like to journal and then I like to meditate, because again, the goals are right in my thought process, whether it be, again, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever it may be, but those goals are right there, and then I'm meditating about what it will feel like when that actually happens. So like when we were creating the fitness center and it was nothing over there, my goal was that I saw a lot of happy people working out there. So I would actually visualize myself going into that center and seeing the people smiling and working out and doing good things. I would actually visualize that process, because it really helped get those steps done and make sure that everything was completed and that it came to fruition in the way that we wanted it to. But that's what I mean. They need to be really crystal clear on what you want to have happen. So create a good, clear vision on what that will look like. And the other thing that I highly recommend, if you're up for it, is to actually create a vision board. Is anyone familiar with vision boards? Oprah talked about this years ago, if you grew up watching Oprah after school like I did. So Oprah is big into her vision boards, but basically what a vision board is you can take magazines or go online and print out pictures of things that you're interested in or you're passionate about, or that represent to you. It doesn't have to represent anything to anybody else, but maybe it's a picture that you want to go to France, and that's your vision of in the next year you want to go to France. And so you're collecting pictures of the Eiffel Tower or French flags or whatever it is that represents that to you. But you create a board that represents all of those things, and you put it in a place where you can see it every single day. And what I guarantee you is that it doesn't always happen at the exact timeline that you want it to, but if you look back a couple years and see what was my vision board, I will bet most of those things will have happened for you because they're in your consciousness. So it's creating that conscious thought process. Again, what do I want to see happen? And what's actually going to happen for me? So vision boards are a way to do that. Create time and space for reviewing your goals, and then create the smaller steps. So one of the traps that I would fall into is I'd create a really big goal. And this is like probably about 6-7 years ago. And I typed them out at the beginning of the year, exactly what I would want to happen. And it would become a file on my computer that I never opened again. So I look back maybe 6 months later and think, well, gee, I really haven't done anything towards that goal. So again, it wasn't visual, it wasn't in my field of thought, nothing was really happening actively with that. So the next step that I want you to do is not only reviewing your goals, but creating micro steps for those things to actually have happen. So for me, it's usually at the beginning of the week. I'm thinking, I need this one thing to happen so X, Y, and Z can happen next month. But if I don't make that phone call or take that next step, it's never going to happen. So I keep then, you guys are going to think I'm a notebook crazy person, but I keep a second notebook then that has my list of what needs to happen for my bigger goals to actually come to fruition. So it's my active list. And I actually like to keep, I used to have 10 Post-its with me by the end of the day of all these things that accumulated of information that would come at me or things I needed to get done, emails I needed to send or whatever it was. Now I just keep a notebook. So whatever information comes to me through the day, I have a third notebook. This third notebook has all of the stuff that actually needs to have happen. But then if it's bigger things, they go into the to-do list that's part of the goals and part of the bigger picture. So there's 3 kind of things happening there, but it doesn't matter, whatever works for you. My point is that it's happening. communicate with your goals with others. So I've said that a billion times. If you create your goals at the beginning of the year, maybe it's to exercise. If you have a partner in that process, it's that much more likely to happen. So we want you to have accountability, express what you're going to, you don't have to put it on Facebook, but you can tell a good friend that these are the things that are important to me. Can you help hold me accountable for those things to actually happen? Questions on this part, if we go back to this at all? Okay, so that's your homework. Find a way to write it down. Find a way to keep track of things, express things to others so that these things happen. So the eat right portion of thinking well. These are nutrients that are really important, or just some ideas in the whole thought process of thinking well, is that your brain is made up of fat. And so one of the things that happens, and I work with a lot of vegans and vegetarians, and I'm not saying that you can't do that, but if you are going to have that lifestyle, it's absolutely critical that you eat plenty of good fat. So coconut oil, avocado oil, making sure that you have, vegans it's a little tougher. You can get it through some plant sources, but you have to have omega-3s. You've got to fuel your brain. When people don't fuel their brain, do you guys have any idea what the symptoms of that are? Fatigue is your biggest one. Foggy thinking, lack of energy by the end of the day, and even just not sleeping well. So I think brain health, if you're going to think about that in any way, fat is really your key. You're going to think about your mood, feeling full when you eat a meal, feeling satisfied so you don't feel hungry all the time. Fat is your absolute key. So I'm going to encourage you to do anywhere from 2 teaspoons to a full tablespoon of good fat with every single meal. That's going to tie into, I need to go back to the omega-3 fish oil piece of it, but that's going to tie into really studying your blood sugar. So we work with a lot of diabetics, and diabetes is on the rise in our country. What they're calling Alzheimer's at this point in the research is type 3 diabetes. Yeah. So when you think of this, so your brain, while it may be made of fat, it depends on insulin being able to get sugar into the cell so your brain has fuel, so you can think, and you have energy. When insulin stops working well, sugar can't get into the brain cells, and we have some issues there. Definitely with how we think and our mood. So even things like depression or anxiety can be affected by blood sugar issues. But fat will really work to stabilize your blood sugar. So having appropriate levels of protein and fat, good sources of fiber, are all going to stabilize your blood sugar and make a difference with the nutrition portion of how you feel, how you think. Omega-3s, probably the #1 supplement that I think most people need to be on. The problem with omega-3s, fish oil, is that any idea, what are our oceans like? Where do these fish live? Sadly, very polluted environments. And so if you don't have a pure fish oil, guess what's contaminating it?
All kinds of stuff.
Heavy metals.
Mercury, yes, heavy metals, mercury, PCBs. What damages your brain? Heavy metals. So while there's the most important nutrient that we really need for our brain health, if they're contaminated fish oils, they're not clean and pure, we're going to be creating more damage. I would rather not have you taking them. It's that big of a deal. So as you guys know, we use Metagenics because they're third-party tested by 3 different sources to make sure that they're pure and clean. Everybody needs different formulations of fish oil. So it really depends on what your blood work looks like, what your history looks like, but I would really highly recommend that most people take an omega-3 fatty acid supplement. And I like usually about 3 to 5 grams a day, which what you're going to see from a lot of my patients that come in and say, well, my doctor just said to take 1,000 milligrams a day. And the research that will touch the issues that someone has going on, like a drop in the bucket. So usually they need about 3 to 5 grams if we're going to get more of an anti-inflammatory cardiovascular effect. So just some things to think about, but I want you to start planning. I really think part of your plan, and now in Network we talk about different strategies that people have. If you guys haven't picked it up, I'm a major structure strategy, so I like planning and notes and lists and all that kind of stuff, where Scott's more of a just go and do it. Just go do something. So I go a little bit back and forth, but I really like to have that structure. But I really think, I mean, if you are a person who can eat well naturally, you just make really good choices, awesome. I'm the person who has to plan it out. I have to know, and especially when we have long days like this, what are we going to eat that night? Do we have something planned? Do I have the right groceries for it? But I want you to, if I were to think of it, if I could do it, ideally how I would love for you to think about this is to plan what you're going to eat throughout the week, so that you have plenty of good nutrients when you have later nights or you have meetings or other activities going on. You always have good food prepared. It's in your refrigerator. You're ready to go. So just some things to think about. But I think with the way our culture is, it's a lot easier to be unhealthy than it is to be healthy. So we've got to work at it. So plan the things that you need to do in terms of groceries, recipes, that type of thing. Check out the Body and Balance Pinterest page. We have tons of good recipes on that page that are going to promote how we really teach how to eat well. And it's free. So the gut is something that we need to talk about in thinking right, because most of our neurotransmitters are what controls our emotional state between our brain and the rest of our body is in our gut. So if you have a really unhealthy gut, you're that much more likely to have anxiety and depression. It's one of the things when I get really frustrated about when people come in and they're taking multiple antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications, but their gut has never been addressed. Because 9 times out of 10, that patient will tell me that they've had chronic IBS, diarrhea, constipation. There's other issues going on that are really interfering with their ability to get well. So I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for medication, but at the same time, we need to address the whole picture. And so when we look at the gut, this is one of the things that I really want you to think about is that we have to have a good plan for healing the gut. So that usually involves, again, things like probiotics, getting plenty of good sources of clean food, really cutting down on processed food. So when we think about it, anxiety, which is something that I think the way most Americans' lifestyles are, we're going to have some anxiety because there's a lot going on on a daily basis. But when you think about the whole issue of anxiety and stress that can affect someone, does anyone know what is the first system to be affected by stress? Nervous system is first. What's next? Digestive system. So stress first affects the nervous system goes into fight or flight. In fight or flight, so in caveman times, if you're running from a lion, does your gut need to work? No. So your gut's going to just shut down in that whole process. It's not going to get a lot of attention because you're running off from, a lion or whatever it may be that you were being chased by. So gut function shuts off. In today's world, we have nothing that we're running from when the stress is happening. So when you think about it, think if you're at work and you're sitting in meetings or you're in a family situation or whatever it may be and the stress is mounting, are you going to get up and say, I'm going to go run around the block a couple times, just hang on? You're probably not. That would be a really good strategy. But that would burn off all of the stress hormones and then your body would go back to a state of normal. We don't do that anymore. We sit at a computer and responding to text messages and emails and stressful conversations. All of this is happening while our gut is shutting off. And when you have extended time periods of adrenaline and other stress hormones running through your system, it just continues that stress physiology. So most people come in, they've got major stress physiology going on. Our whole goal is to move them into parasympathetic physiology, which is a calming state where digestion works. One of the most common experiences that I had when I started network care was I would get adjusted and I'd be so hungry. I couldn't stand it. I would have, there's a grocery store really close to where I used to get adjusted and I would run in there and be like a crazy person because I would be so hungry because literally that stress would calm down and my body could actually feel what it needed to feel, which was either usually you need to sleep, so I take like a 3-hour nap, which is not very helpful for studying, or eat. So, but those are really common experiences when the nervous system shifts from fight or flight to parasympathetic physiology. So we got to get stress out of the system as much as possible physiologically. That's one thing. But I also am a firm believer in starting with some type of a cleanse. Get the processed food out of the system. Get whole foods into the system. and go with a really anti-inflammatory diet. So you guys have been to our other classes, we really promote more of a paleo type diet, which kind of has, it's an interesting time right now because what paleo really is an anti-inflammatory diet. It's taking away the foods that create inflammation, like dairy, grains, sugars, are a big one right there, sugar. But we really take away those major inflammatory causing foods, get them out of the diet, get whole foods into the system. And that will really shift things quite a bit. Anytime you go through a dietary change like that, expect maybe some constipation, some diarrhea, some kind of changes in your bowel habits, but that will typically normalize within 3 or 4 days. That will help heal the gut. Now, this is not a quick fix to your mood at all, so just know that. It will still take maybe 3, 6, 9 months, a year to really get the result that you're looking for. But again, if we never address it, what's going to happen? It's going to be this underlying issue that doesn't help anything else. So it's something that, again, it's a process. Don't expect an overnight miracle, but it's gonna shift things over time. And then determine if there's inflammatory causing foods for your body. So everybody's a little bit different. I have patients that we can test this out with just basically trial and error, but it's cutting out a food group completely for a 3-week time period and then reintroducing it. And when you reintroduce it in a healthy form. Like say we are cutting out gluten. And you cut it out completely, I mean not even a particle of gluten for 3 weeks. And then you take it, or you may have like maybe a piece of whole grain toast or something like that, and then you wait 3 days, no more gluten, you go back to a really clean diet. What I want you to watch for are things like, do you get headaches? Did the headaches come back when you had the gluten? Did you have more digestive disturbance? Did you have joint pain? Those are all signs of having an inflammatory response from a food. One thing to consider. Otherwise, I have other patients say, there's no way I'm going to do that, just run a blood test. So we run a blood test, and it just shows us what someone is sensitive to. So that's another thing that can really make a difference. You take away what's bothering the gut, you go to a clean diet, you get the right supplements in place, people's guts heal, but that will affect neurotransmitters, it's going to affect your ability to relax, to sleep well, but that's another important component. So questions on that at all while I grab a quick drink? Anybody? Somebody have a question? Go ahead, Holly.
Yeah, you mentioned that you should have 2 to 3 tablespoons of fat with each meal. Could you?
2 to 3 teaspoons.
Teaspoons. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that would be a lot of fat.
But which particular ones do you recommend?
Definitely, I mean, coconut oil has become one of my favorites. Avocado oil is one of my favorites. Olive oil is just fine. But I can explain this in a better way. When we talk about an inflammatory state that a lot of people deal with, in America, it's typically because we've got so many omega-6s going into our diet, which are going to be more of like your seed oils, canola oil, or what else am I thinking? Canola oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, that group. So there's that group over there. That's in just about every processed food that you look at. If you picked up a box of crackers, it's going to have those types of oils in it. Well, what happens is when your balance of omega-6s to omega-3s gets so off, we become really inflamed. So in Europe, most people have like a 6-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s. Anyone want to guess what a typical American's ratio is? 39 omega-6s to 1 omega-3.
Wow.
So we're in this really inflamed state, which leads to just about every disease you can imagine. So it's got to change. So how you change that, again, you cut out processed food. You can add more omega-3s, but if you don't cut down on the processed food, we've got a problem. So that's how you create that balance within the system. But inflammation and the detoxification process, when that is not working well, that really messes with your brain health. So again, not a quick fix. If you change these things in the next couple months and you really work on it, don't expect it to be better right away. It's a process, but it does need to be done. So that's one way to think about it. Any other questions on that stuff? You can always go back to it. So you got to move your body. And so when you think about just the whole concept of endorphins, I think most people really like to have endorphins when you get to a point where exercise feels really good and it almost becomes addicting. So you want to be careful with that at the same time, but you need to have strength, we need to have cardiovascular, and then we need to have stretching and mobility. Those are the three pillars of really moving well. But what that will do is produce serotonin and dopamine, so those are your endorphins. And those neurotransmitters really reduce pain, they increase a feeling of well-being, and they really affect the brain's opiate center. So it becomes addictive over time because you want to get that movement in the system. Very, very key. People with major depressive disorders who were put on a strict exercise regimen saw the improvement in their symptoms just as much as those did taking an antidepressant. So I need you to move. That's really plain and simple, as I want you to figure out how you're going to get that into your system. How NSA really affects your mood, and this is what I love this research, but they studied over 3,000 people and looked at their response to NSA care, and what they found was that yes, there was what most people come to chiropractic for, which is pain relief. It decreased physical pain, but the other things that I love of what it did is, what it showed is that it increased someone's sense of well-being. It improved the mental and emotional state, and it increased feelings of happiness and joy. So those are all good things. We want all of these. There's so many other benefits to NSA care, but those are pieces of the puzzle that are very key in someone's overall well-being and their ability to improve. So then we talk about the benefits of massage, and I'm going to give you a special for massage just for coming tonight. But there's so many benefits to the physiological portion of massage. I'm going to have I'm sorry, I will keep talking for a second while you chew. So when we look at it, there's many physical benefits to massage, but when you're thinking of changing your state, there are things that you can do for the body, and you really want to have a good routine on these things. Things like chiropractic and massage and nutrition and exercise. Often, I think people in their mindset think, well, that's just something that's kind of a luxury. In today's world, it is not a luxury when you look at it, because people are in such a tough state. And what I mean by that, they have high levels of inflammation, they've got poor foods going into the diet. Even if they're trying really hard, often they've got poor foods going into the diet. So the nutrition isn't there, they're not moving their body. So we've got to have a good plan of things in place that keep you well, is really what it comes down to. It's huge for the brain. And I have to say, not that I'm discounting any men here at all, but for women especially, you've got to plan things for yourself. That's really key. I shouldn't say it's just for women, because it's a tendency for women to not do those things, but for all human beings. If you don't plan the things for you to have good mental and emotional and physical health, it doesn't happen. I mean, if you think about the busyness of our days and what the demands that we have, if we don't have things scheduled, my favorite quote from my mentor is, "That which gets scheduled gets done." So I'm a stickler on, I want appointments scheduled. I look at reports every night. I'm sorry if I'm picking on anyone of who left without an appointment, because I'm kind of sending those messages to people like, okay, you got to get it scheduled. We're always going to call you if you didn't schedule it, because that which gets scheduled gets done. The things that are most important in your life should never be at the mercy of the things that matter the least. So you create a schedule and you get those things built into your wellness plan. I want to introduce Tiffany, bless you, our massage therapist, and I have a special offer for you to experience our wonderful massage program in our office, but will you just talk a little bit about your passion for massage?
Absolutely.
This is Tiffany.
Hi everybody, I've worked on quite a few of you since I've been here. I've been here since November, and the reason I got into massage goes all the way back to when I was 7. My mom was in a really bad car accident, and I would go watch her go through all these physical therapies, doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist, medicine after medicine. Nothing helped her, but they would show me different things to do at home to help her out. And that kind of got me thinking how just touch heals the body. And, I grew up, had a couple kids, decided it was time for mom to grow up, went into school to get my massage degree. And then ever since, I've been trying to find a place where I can fit in, where massage just really helps people. And it's not just, worked at Massage Envy for 3.5 years, and it was just cookie cutter massage. Everyone came in, nobody really cared about their health. It was just, oh, I have this plan, so I have to use these massages because I'm paying for them, whatever. But then I started working here with Doctors Leah and Scott, and it just really blew my mind at how much the impact of health and wellness and how massage really gets in there and helps people, and how it ties everything together. And you got your NSA work that the doctors do, you got the personal training over there, and then massage just kind of really ties it all together. And it just really brings that mind-body connection, and it adjusts the muscle tension that you're not able to get with the NSA stuff. It really helps pinpoint, like, oh, tried to do this work with the trainers, but it couldn't quite work. So, you know, adjusting whatever muscle is holding it back. It just really is empowering as a massage therapist to be in an environment that the healing is here. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful system. So
Thank you. You can see her passion. She's very good at what she does. And I just think that, again, it's such a key is figure out what are your missing components of that's keeping you from getting to the emotional, mental, physical state where you need to be. When you figure out those components, then you start to put them into place, and it can make a huge difference. And this would be the other reason why most people need to address their body when it comes to what's happening within their mind. I love that. We have that poster in our office, and isn't it true of so many people coming in? This is becoming, yes, this is becoming America right here. Text, look at people, I watch people, I'm sorry, again, if you're one of these people that is sitting over here while we're adjusting, and I can see them out of the corner of my eye texting like this the whole time before their adjustment. That's so hard on your body, but that's becoming a normal posture in our country, is to have this. But the reason why we talk about that is because they've actually studied what that type of posture does to your physiology. So when I'm standing like this and I'm in a state of extension, it actually increases testosterone. And why do we want testosterone? Testosterone gives us energy. It helps build our bones and our muscles. It's a good thing. But it decreases our cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone. So just by changing your posture, and if you experiment with that if you're just sitting there. If you put yourself in this position and try to think positive thoughts, see if it's possible. It's pretty difficult. But if you then change your posture and go into a state of extension, it's way easier to think positively. Often, I have to say I'm guilty of it. When I meditate, I often sit on the couch and I just make myself comfortable. But it really is way easier to meditate if you put your spine in a state of extension. So that's just something that we can think about that can make a difference. So we're going to really delve into the Think Right portion of this talk. And so this is what I want to put into perspective. So we think about 60,000 thoughts every single day. It's a lot. You can't really separate yourself from your mind, so you got to figure out a way to control your mind. But 90% of the thoughts are the same exact thoughts that you thought yesterday. Now, that does not speak to, I think on the way to work, okay, did I get groceries? Did I do this? Did I do that? It's like kind of the mental checklist of all the things that you did or didn't do. Okay, this is the kicker though. 50% of those thoughts are negative. So I need to find a way to really facilitate your healing process to the best of my ability to help you think positive thoughts. I'm going to be very candid with you here. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I adjust someone and I say, how are you doing? And they tell me that they are doing the same. Now, why do you think that would irritate me so much? Because, there's lots of things changing in our bodies every single day. But if people tell me that they're doing the same, what mental message are they sending to themselves? That they're not changing. That their physical state is not changing. If you tell yourself, well, I'm just the same. I'm just the same. I'm the same as last week. And I'm seeing all of these things shifting for them. If they're mentally telling themselves that, will they ever be able to feel the true effect of what's happening within their body? It's going to be really difficult. So we got to change the messaging that's happening. What the brain thinks is usually true within your physiology. So if you tell yourself that I'm getting well on a daily basis, I am expressing life and creativity every single day. What do you think is happening?
You're gonna do that.
You're going to do that. Whatever you tell yourself is true. So if you tell yourself that I'm getting more and more miserable every day, you probably are. Because it's true. So we wanted, what was that, Melanie?
Woe is me.
Yeah, woe is me.
I remember Joe Blitzfolk
Yes.
in Little Abner
Okay.
walked around all day with a little cloud over his head that had a
There you
lightning
go.
flashing.
Charlie
zapping
Brown.
every now and then.
Yes.
But
Yes.
can't we, I was talking to one of the ladies at the front desk, because
Yeah.
I had a really bad week with my neck
Sure.
when it had been feeling a lot better. And
Yes.
so we can go through
Oh, yeah.
setbacks
That's very true.
because our body's changing,
Our
right?
body's changing. And that's one of the situations where I see all the time. I'm definitely, if I say that, Pat, I'm not saying that like, gosh, someone can't ever feel bad. Because
Yeah.
it is, I mean,
I get that.
there's times we physically don't feel well.
Right,
It's when it becomes the mental mindset and it doesn't change.
right.
And you can see
Okay.
that that's just where that person's stuck. There's a person that I worked with for probably a good 7 or 8 years, and you guys fill out your little questionnaire so I can track how you're doing and, you know, how much better do you feel like you're doing over time. Well, his has gone from 10%, he's noticed 10% improvement to 90% to almost 100% improvement over the years that I've seen him. But what do you think he tells me? And that's what he's filling out. I say, Brian, how are you doing today? Same old, same old.
Eeyore.
Eeyore. It is totally Eeyore. It's totally Eeyore. And I'm like, ah! Okay. We gotta tell ourselves a different message. It doesn't mean that you're never gonna feel bad.
Right.
But it's that you wanna find out what is the subliminal message. And that's where, when we meditate, I want you to see what messages pop into your brain, because those are typically the subconscious messages that we're giving ourselves over and over again. We want to figure out what those are. Because if you can't figure out what they are, then you can't change them. But if you get to the root of it, you can really change the messages that you're giving yourself on a daily basis. That's the key. So, how do we change it? I'm going to give you many different strategies, but my first one is I am a firm believer in not watching the news. I really don't know. I don't know who political candidates are. I don't know much about that. Somehow I'm going to have to read up on that before the elections. I don't know much about bombings or wars that are happening in the world, but my mental state is much better because of it. So this is true. So it's a fact. Whatever you read, see, or do in the last 20 minutes before you go to bed is processed by our subconscious 6 times more than what you read, see, or do for the rest of the day. So what I mean, think of that when you'd be studying for a test late at night and you were just trying to pound that information into your brain. Did anyone else have the experience of waking up multiple times thinking about that? Because that's what you put in your brain right before you went to bed. So I use a lot of different resources for this, but I'm always trying to find either a really relaxing book to read before I go to bed, or I'll find something that I'm going to show you some of the books and the cards and things that I use to change my state. But you want to have something that can really work with you, whatever it may be. But I'm just saying, maybe shut off the news especially before you go to bed. Maybe watch it in the morning and then let it go. But you got to find a way that works for you. Any questions about that? No more news watching for you guys. So it's before you go to bed. Okay. So I'm going to show you what I used. And this was something that I've had this since I was in chiropractic school, and I've got several of her books. And they're beautiful books. Not all of them have this much artwork. I love Louise Hay. I'm going to pass this around. Louise Hay is a firm, she writes, what you think is what you create, is basically her whole message. And so her books have lots of, if you feel this way, or this is a problem within your life, or a physical symptom, whatever it is, here's your affirmation to work with that. I use affirmations all the time. So often, even when I'm adjusting, I have affirmations that I use. There's a Hawaiian affirmation that I'll use all the time that I literally will just, it's kind of going in the background of my head all the time if I have a lot of quiet time, or if I'm just back here working with people. but it's please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you, I love you. And that's the Hawaiian meditation. There's it's like a Hawaiian mantra if you look that up. I can't say exactly how it's pronounced. But I would love for you to have some affirmations of things that you want to work on that just start to become the background noise in your head. So maybe while you're driving, instead of thinking about how crappy the other driver is in front of you or how someone cut you off, you have meditations or affirmations that you use. Like, if you're worried about money, I am abundant and open to all the prosperity in the universe. Even better if you go like this when you do it. Or if you have a lot of emotional distress within your family, maybe it's something that you create for yourself that turns that into something positive, or you think about what you want to create and you create an affirmation around that. So my family is loving and beautiful. Whatever it may be, whatever you connect with. I'm just throwing things out there. But Wayne Dyer is another one who's really good at it. I've got Wayne Dyer thought cards at home, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay thought cards at home. But we actually, as a team, we actually pull one of these every single morning. Henton's an expert at it. I don't know, she pulls the best ones. I'm going to pass these around, though, and try drawing one. I mean, she's really good at it. She'll kind of set herself up for it, and she has to draw the card for the team for the day. So that's what you guys will see on the whiteboard out there, is whatever card we drew for that day. I'm amazed, though, if I have something that I'm really worried about or stressed about or whatever it is, I will think about that and think about, I really need something to help turn this around in my head, and I am 9 times out of 10, I will draw a card that is exactly what I needed to hear that day. So I'm going to pass these around as well. You can take a look at them. But I just love the artwork and how beautiful they are as well, because it helps. I'll even draw those. I'll put them around in my desk. I'll put them in my bathroom and take them to a mirror.
Those are Wayne Dryers?
Those ones are Louise Hay, but
okay.
Wayne Dyer has them too, like the Wayne Dyer Power Thought cards.
Okay.
You can find them on Amazon. All these books are on Amazon. But kind of what I've done is in my office area at home, I have a part of our bookshelf that's kind of like my area of Power Thought cards, my Louise Hay books, my journals, whatever I'm trying to learn at that time. It's all kind of together. And so if I want to work on it, if I consciously know, like, gosh, I have stinking thinking, I'm going to go over to that area and I'm going to pick a card or look in that book or whatever just to change it immediately. So I highly recommend having some resources like that that you can use, and everyone will find different things that work for them. So this is actually from the book Power of Habit. You have something, Armin, did I?
Just another book that
Yeah.
you might add to your collection if
Yeah.
you want to have it. That's Khalil Gibran's The Prophet.
I've heard of that one. I don't have that one.
You need it.
Okay. The Prophet.
The
Thank
Prophet.
you. It's one of my favorite TV shows too. The Prophet. You want me to watch that? Okay. Highly suggested. If you have to go, if you've ever had any family members with small businesses, it's fascinating. He goes into small businesses and turns them around, and really fascinating.
Some similar shows.
Yeah.
Like disaster before.
So really what I want you to think about, though, in this whole cycle, what we're looking at, is start to evaluate the habits that you have, and if there's things that you're not happy with. So one of the things I hear a lot in this whole process is like, well, gosh, you get up at 5 a.m. to do this. I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. to do this, so how am I going to change these habits? Maybe you don't need that 45 minutes in the morning. Maybe you need to get up 15 minutes early so that you have time to set up your day in the way that you want to. So how are you going to change that? Well, we need to change the cue. We need to change, basically the cue is what creates all of this to change. You look at someone has a cue, so say that they want to change their addiction to sugar. Well, we need to figure out what the cue is for you that creates the routine that you go to the sugar. So is the cue a stressor? Is it having a stressful conversation with this particular person? Is it when you pick up your kid from school every day, then you go to McDonald's, and mean, what is the cue? What is happening? So once you can evaluate those things, it's a lot easier to change the habit, because if you can start to create different associations. So does that make sense? You know, so again, it comes down to really evaluating what you're currently doing. So I think a lot of it, when we look at different emotional patterns that people have that create a stress response, that then create a habit that they're not happy with, it has to do with their emotional state. So when you think about emotion, does thought create emotion, or does emotion drive thought?
Yes.
Yes, all of the above, doesn't it?
Yes.
All of the above. Thought creates emotion, and present emotion creates thought. Really, what I think it comes down to is you got to find a way to deal with emotions more effectively and to be able to change our thought patterns and make the biggest difference. The other key to it is something called present time consciousness. Has anyone ever worked with that before? Present time consciousness. Present time consciousness is used a lot for people who have intense anxiety, or they can't control their thoughts because there's just this constant loop of things going on. So I actually worked with someone and did some training on this, and what we teach people is that, so say that you have maybe a really stressful morning starting in your day, but you're going to wash dishes. So you're going to turn on the water, and while you turn on the water, you are thinking, right now, I'm turning on the water. And then you put your hand in the water, or whatever you may do, and you think, I am now putting my hand in the water. And now I am touching the soap. And now I'm putting a dish in the water. Whatever you're doing, you bring your attention to focus exactly on what is happening in that moment. So you almost have to start to think about it like, okay, right now I am pulling back the cover. Now I'm getting into bed. Now I'm turning off the light. Whatever it may be, but you become very, very specific in how you are focusing your thought. I use this a lot because sometimes when I come into work, as our good team, our wonderful team knows, sometimes there's a billion things that have to be dealt with right now. But I can't deal with them right now because I have to go start adjusting. So it'd be really easy to be thinking of like, oh my gosh, I need to call this person and I have to deal with this, and this delivery didn't happen, and this person needs this or whatever. I can't be back here though thinking about that. So I have to go into, this is the person I am working on. I am feeling their spine. I am touching their feet. Whatever it is, I have to really train my thinking right there at that moment. You can use that strategy no matter where you are or what you were doing. But that will bring you right into that present time, and it is huge. But that is a way that you can really start to, yeah.
One strategy I used when my father was very sick and dying, and after he died, I had to function,
Yes.
so I scheduled specific times to grieve. So, and then I would look at his picture or think about him or something.
That's so smart,
to get
Holly.
rid of
Yeah.
the squirrel in the head, you can say, well, okay, this is what I'm going to deal with.
Yes. So smart. And the fact that you actually gave yourself time to grieve. It's
Oh, you
huge.
have to.
Huge. Some people just don't do that. But that is a way that, I mean, just using those types of things and strategies of like, okay, it's almost becoming it's becoming tougher on yourself. Being a little more disciplined. It's kind of like the word sacrifice. You have to give up a little to get what you really want in the long run. It's like, yeah, I'm going to give up that half hour of sleep so I can set my day up to be the right way.
It's also acknowledging what exists, which is so important.
Yes, acknowledging what is happening at that moment. But it is a way to start to control your emotions and use your emotions in a more effective way. So, not that emotions are bad, because we all have them, and it's important to experience them, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we can use them effectively. So emotions are the byproduct of your thoughts, and thoughts are the byproduct of your emotions. So we need to find a way to change our emotional state. So one way is deep breathing. So you can deep breathe really any way you want. There's square breathing, there's 4-7-8 breathing, there's 8-8-8 breathing. I don't really care how you do it. What I do care about is that you try to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just like we teach you to do when you're getting adjusted on the table. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. What that's going to do is activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So that in itself is a tool that you can use no matter where you are. If you're stuck in traffic, if you're in a stressful situation, start deep breathing. Can make a really big difference in shifting the physiology out of sympathetic into parasympathetic. You guys want to try it? Okay, so let's do it. So we're going to have you exhale completely. So just to get your breath in, breath out, get one good breath cycle going. And then we're going to inhale for a count of 4. I can't talk and do it at the same time, so you guys do it. So inhale for a count of 4, and then hold it for 7. And then we're going to exhale for 8, for the count of 8. Does anybody feel just a sense of peace in their body just by doing that? It's incredible. So you want to repeat that at least 3 times for it to be most effective, but you know, if you're in a situation you only get 1 deep breath, it's still 1 deep breath that you probably wouldn't have taken if you weren't paying attention to it. Many of us will go through the entire day and realize that they haven't taken a deep breath all day. Really easy to do. So something that you can really start to control. Love this exercise. So this is kind of your end of the day routine. So what went well today? Some days you have to think about it really hard, but there's always going to be something. Maybe somebody smiled at you. Maybe it was sunny that day. In our house we have tons of construction going on, so maybe it was that someone didn't make a mess today. So whatever it may be, we got to be thankful for it. We got to be thankful for the good things. So I like to keep a little journal, again, notebook, but a little journal by my bedside table that just is what the gratitude journal. What went well today? What am I thinking about that was a good thing that happened today? That can change your perspective tremendously. So I like to think of at least 5 things. And it's really fun because you start to use it as a tool that you'll start to think about, oh, that's going to go in the gratitude journal tonight. Because that was a really good moment. But I want you to be thinking of those things throughout the day. When we're grateful, it changes our perspective. Another author that I love, you guys heard of Brene Brown? She's really a big deal right now. She did a TED Talk, and it's one of the most popular TED Talks that was ever done. She talks all about being vulnerable, which is a huge concept right now, to be vulnerable, to let yourself actually show who you truly are to people. But look at her stuff. Daring Greatly is the one that I would read first, but she's awesome. But so what she said is in her research is that gratefulness and joy are completely interconnected. So those who are grateful experience a much higher level of joy. Happiness can be fleeting. You know, we did well on a test. We're happy about it. How long does that last? Maybe a couple hours. I think that was really cool. And then we're done with that and we move on. So being in a state of joy is much more of a way of life, an outlook, or a process. The next thing that we want to talk about is having some form of quiet built into your day. So what they were looking at is in today's world, but we get into our car, we automatically turn on a radio or an iPod, or we've always got something going, and how important it is to actually create some kind of quiet within our day. So if you look at the information, there's a ton on here, but it actually improves your physiology to have some type of a quiet time, if it's only 5 minutes during the day, it can really improve things. So I would say shut off the TV at some point. A lot of us like background noise. I think I work better when there's background noise, but at the same time, I have to find a time during the day where, no, at this time, we're going to be quiet. Give your brain some breathing room. So you don't have to unplug yourself from everything. But what I do highly suggest, and just to improve your quality of sleep, which obviously improves your mental state as well, is that if it's internet, phone, computer, iPad, whatever it is, that at least an hour before you go to bed, it's shut off. You're not texting, you're not having stressful conversations. I mean, the whole concept of it's never good to go to bed angry. I am not a night person. I'm like, if I could go to bed at 8 o'clock every night, I would. If Scott could stay up till 2 in the morning every night, he would. So he's ready to go to have a big stressful conversation at 10 at night. I'm like, don't talk to me. I don't want to hear a noise. If you make too much noise opening up the door, I'm going to be mad and I'm going to be awake and staring at you for the rest of the night. That's me. So I don't want to have stressful conversations. For me, it's much better to wait till maybe midday when we're both functioning well. So you got to know yourself, but really avoid stress as much as you can about an hour before you go to bed, but especially shut off electronics. Don't go to bed and start looking at your Facebook feed. It's not a smart thing to do. So the last thing that we really want to focus on, there's all kinds of things that you could do here. Turn off alerts on your phone. Put it on airplane mode when you go to bed. Avoid all of the EMF that's creating. But I want to actually do a meditation with you. And so when we talk about meditation, there's so many key components of meditation of what it does for your physiology. But the thing that I really want you to focus on is that when we think about 50% of our 60,000 thoughts were negative, and we're thinking the same things over and over again, is we have to find a way to change what you're thinking. And that, I mean, guys, I can use meditation to really think whatever I want. Something could be going really poorly in my life, but I think it's great because I can reprogram it with meditation. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go that far in doing it. But it's really amazing how you can start to control what you think about. And I think that that's really key. So look at the physiological effects. So it increases immune system function, decreases cholesterol, aids in weight loss, reduces the need for medical care, stabilizes your blood sugar, the list goes on. Emotionally, it's going to help you live in the present. So I have many of my patients will ask, well, can I just use prayer time as meditation time? I want you to separate them because I think meditation is that important where prayer is still, typically there's more thought involved with it. So have your prayer time, but then have your meditation time as a separate time that you actually devote some specific time for that during the day. Creates deeper relationships, provides peace of mind and happiness, increased acceptance of oneself, psychologically builds self-confidence, improves relationships, helps in quitting smoking or just really changing habits, and increases creativity. So the thing that I want you to think about is whenever you meditate, the complaint that I get is, well, I just could never stop thinking. That's not the point that you have to stop thinking. The point is that you can control what you are thinking about. So in the beginning of meditation, as you start to have that quiet time, I highly suggest guided meditation. Because it will be painful to sit there for 5 minutes and try to be silent. I used to just, if I tried to do that, bring a notebook, because the thoughts would just keep coming of, oh, I didn't do this, and I didn't schedule the oil change, and I didn't get the car, whatever it would be. It was constant thought. So guided meditation can really help train you. And then if you want to go into more of just a silent meditation, you can work for that. But it is a practice. What I mean by practice is it will never be perfect. It will get better and better and easier, but you have to devote time and energy into getting there, into getting that effect. And I would say it probably took me about a good 6 months to really feel like I could get to that state of meditation where, I mean, Logan can be asking to turn on a cartoon and I can just tune it out. It doesn't really even bother me. So you can get to that place where your mind can go into that state without you having to work real hard at it. But I want that to be a tool that each of you has, no matter where you are and what you're doing. Does that make sense? So you can be in a really stressful situation. Your brain can go into a place of healthy thinking and less stress physiology. So again, for those of you type A people, we're not trying to achieve anything with meditation. It doesn't have to be like, I made it for 20 minutes today. It doesn't have to be that. It can be if you want it, but you don't have to create it to be like a chore or something that you're working at. It can be something that's really enjoyable. Your practice will grow as you do. So it's basically creating as much peace as you can within your life. And that will build. It's kind of like when you think about if, say that, you don't save money so that how can I say that in a different way? You could save money so that you're creating a certain level of safety within your life. But if you waited until you had a big financial crisis and then you decided to save money, is that going to be as effective? No. Same thing with meditation. You can build peace within your life so that when you go through really stressful situations, you kind of, it's like a peace bank that you have to draw upon. You can use it at any time. So we're going to do, I'm having to use Scott's phone for this, so it's not my favorite, but I think it'll work. We do not need a software update at this time, so we'll just sit later. Okay. So this again, it's a guided meditation. Be comfortable. I want you guys to close your eyes. There's not kind of a state that whatever is comfortable to you, feel free to do that. It's an 8-minute meditation. So I want you to try to pay attention to your breathing. If you can, do in through your nose, out through your mouth. Because it's guided, it's going to help you start to train your thought process into something positive. If something negative comes in, acknowledge it, say, okay, I'm not going to think about that now, I'm going to concentrate right back into the words. Okay? So, let's get this going. And then it will end naturally, so you don't have to worry about it.
By and large, the way that we start our day sets the tone for the rest of it. So this short visualization is a great way to set up the most fantastic day ahead. All you have to do is sit or lie down comfortably and allow your mind to wander and to wonder. So let all attention flow from your body. Take a deep in-breath and a full out-breath. Just for today, just be mindful of your breath. Notice the in-breath, notice the out-breath. Most importantly, pay attention to the still point between the in and the out, and the out and the in. Just for today, remember that holding anger is like holding a hot coal and not throwing it. So if you have thoughts of revenge or being wronged, just imagine you're standing at the top of the cliff looking out to sea. Throw that anger as far away as you can. Let it sail into the air and drop into the sea. Just for today, perform a random act of kindness. And with random acts of kindness, the first thing is that they must be random. And also, the person you bestow your kindness on may not be the person that returns the kindness to you. So smile at a stranger, let somebody out in traffic, open a door for somebody, and notice how your random acts of kindness are nicely infectious. All of them, other people will copy you and pass them on. just for today. Be thankful. Be thankful to Mother Earth, keeping the air that you breathe around you and providing the gravity that sticks you to the planet. Be thankful for all the gifts and serendipities that come your way. And be thankful for the amazing experience